Well guys, this is Information System Theory section for Computer Practice N6. Right, in connection with this, I hope all N6 Computer Practice students, they are familiar with the section that needs to be covered on theory, which among others, it's this information system, the section that deals with computer viruses, the one that deals with the troubleshooting, and the other one that deals with software. Right, this one, it covers almost everything in connection with ICT, or information and communication system. So we start this section by giving you a definition of information system. It's defined as a combination of people, hardware, software, communication devices, network and data resources that processes data and information for a specific purpose. So this definition, it gives you a clue as to what information system section deals with. So you can see here that the equipment, hardware, is involved. The apps or programs, software, are also involved. The issue of communication. When it comes to communication, we can refer to various forms of communication. Apart from verbal communication, we can communicate through data. We can use SMSs, we can use emails, we can use websites, and other forms of communication like any form of social media. So you can see that this information system section covers almost everything about ICT. So right here we've got the elements of information system. Those elements must be listed as people, machines, procedures, database, and control. So when it comes to people, you need to take note that people are regarded or considered as the main element of information system, because for everything in connection with information system to be possible, it's because of a human being. About machines, we are referring to all forms of ICT machines here, not only computers. We can refer to computers, we can refer to scanners, printers, washing machines, dishwashers, and all other appliances that we use on our households. So about machines, we are referring to such. Well, in procedures for any device and also the software to perform its function, a right or the correct procedure must be followed. So procedures, that's how they come in. So we have also a database as well as control as elements of information system. So when information system elements are required, you can list them, but bearing in mind that the first one, people, is the main one. Right, moving on with the very same section, we've got something we refer to it as data and information. Sometimes these two words, data and information, tend to be used as they are the same, or they mean something which cannot be differentiated. That is not true. Actually, data is referred to as a raw of unprocessed and unorganized facts, while information is interpreted, is structured, is organized, and is also processed. So take note of the differences between the two. Again, when it comes to data, data is based on records and observation. while information, it's based on research. Right. Things like numbers or figures can make a good example, but take note, it depends. As you can see, the example of information we have said, information gives meaning to these numbers. Meaning, on the left-hand side, numbers and figures can be just meaningless numbers. But after processing, and only to find that these numbers now are giving a clarity on something. So it's no longer a data, it is now information. As I've indicated in my introduction, that this section covers almost everything. So you might be surprised about different subtopics that keeps on popping up. Or you need to understand that this section covers almost everything about ICT. Now we need to know. We need to know, meaning we need knowledge. We need to be knowledgeable. What is knowledge? This is a collection of interpreted information from different sources into one related unit. So you need to take note. That's the reason why we've got researchers who time to time produce their research findings or outputs for us to get information in order to get knowledge or in order to be knowledgeable. So knowledge, it's something that we know. It cannot be stored anywhere, but knowledge is stored on our own brains. For an example, if you conduct a certain source, you take a textbook, you take a computer, you are searching for knowledge there. No, on a textbook, we are not searching for knowledge, but we are searching for information. So that information then can be interpreted, can be collected and interpreted and so on. Then it can be converted to knowledge. Now we need to buy a computer. We understand very well that when you are a first-time computer buyer, you might make a series of mistakes, not knowing what hardware specifications are good for your computer, software as well. So if you are a first-time buyer or you are not knowledgeable about computers, you might end up buying any computer that you come across. Sometimes you can simply buy it just because it's a cheap one or an affordable one. So that is not recommended. When you buy a computer, you need to know your intentions. You need to know what is it that you need to do with this computer. We need to study about the issue of hardware. There are certain hardware specifications that you need to look for. So as we are saying how to choose the computer, we are referring to specifications. Financing, this can be more relevant to an institution or an organization that needs to buy a computer when it comes to financing. Well, it is also relevant to you as an individual who wants to buy a computer, the so-called methods of payments. So we've got different methods of payments which are going to be covered in this presentation as we proceed. So when you buy a computer, you need to understand the processor or the so-called central processing unit, the speed of the CPU, the HDD or the hard drive disk capacity. We recommend that when you buy a computer, you need to go for the high-speed CPU, the huge hard drive capacity, the random access memory or RAM. We recommend that it might be 2 gigs or more, depending on the operating system that you are using. The operating system as well, which is also referred to its system software. as we're talking about number 4 here, operating system, in most cases we have got Windows as an operating system. So irrespective whether it's Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows 2000, Windows NT, Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 8, and so on. But that is an operating system. Well, not only Windows forms part of an operating system. We've got DOS, we've got Linux, Unix, we've got Android on our cell phones, on our smartphones as an operating system, and so on. And again, when you buy a computer, you can also have a look on a monitor type and a monitor size, knowing that we've got a flat screen monitors these days when we buy our computers or TV sets, and also as this and also as the size, how many inches of the monitor or the screen that you need. But that is not that important. What is important here is the issue of CPU, hard drive, and the RAM, as well as operating system. Right, as I'm talking about the output, well, as you can see here, these are monitor types, the CRT and the LCD, which is a cathode ray tube, the old type of screens. So we do have these screens on our computers and our television sets. The flat screen LCD, the liquid crystal display, but we need to understand that when it comes to flat screens, we've got different types now, which includes LCD, plasma, LED, and so on. The next one, we need to focus on the step that need to be followed when you buy computers for an organization. What do you mean about that? That simply means when an organization plans to buy something like computers, the correct procurement processes must be followed. It's unlike an individual who wants to buy his or her own computer. You can do it anyhow if you want to buy your own computer. That is up to you, because you don't need to consult someone unless if you need advice, but you can simply buy a computer of your own. But when you buy the computer for organization, the procurement or the correct procurement processes must be followed. So when it comes to your assessment and this question appears, let's say you need to list these steps. Take note, you need to list them as they are. You cannot simply mix them anyhow. Right, in order to buy computers for an organization, you start by drawing a request proposal. After the proposal, you liaise with the suppliers, you notify the suppliers about the intention of buying computers for that particular organization. After receiving the applications from different suppliers, then you study those applications and you evaluate them accordingly, and finally you select one supplier that will provide or that the organization will buy from those computers. So as I've indicated earlier, you need to list them as they are for your assessment purpose. The issue of financing, we have said we have got 4 ways of financing the purchase of computers for an organization in particular. Take note, we've got the so-called straight purchase. What is a straight purchase? A straight purchase is whereby an organization simply pay cash in order to get those computers. Just cash. For an example, this total number of computers needs 500,000. So the organization will simply pay 500,000 and takes the computers. The second one, it's a leasing. An organization can buy the computers, or an organization can lease the computers. So what is leasing? Leasing is a little bit related to rental, but not exactly the same. When you lease something, that simply means you will be, the organization will be given that computers, but there is certain amount that need to be paid or on monthly basis for a certain agreed period. So there's a time frame involved in leasing, unlike on rental. The difference between leasing and rental. So when it comes to rental, the organization can rent computers if they don't want to buy them, if they don't want to own them. So they can rent these computers for a certain months, for certain years, it depends on the needs of an organization. But when it comes to rental, usually there is no time frame. The organization can rent as much as they want to, but in leasing there is a time frame. There is an agreement to the issue of time. The third one or the final one is hire purchase. What is a hire purchase? Hire purchase is whereby an organization buy these computers with installment. For an example, the organization will pay a certain amount upfront as a deposit, depending on an agreement, and the organization will be supplied with computers. Then the organization will pay a certain amount every month up until it is settled. Then finally, these computers will belong to that particular organization. So that's what hire purchase is all about. I've already gave details about rental. Again, you might be confused. What security now are we referring to? Simple. Remember what I've said at the beginning of this presentation. I've said the information system section covers almost everything concerns with that concerns ICT, information and communications technology. So when it comes to security, our security is going to be categorized into two. This issue of security can be an issue of protecting the equipment. We refer to it as physical security. The intention is to protect the equipment like this. The following precautions must be taken into consideration as physical protection. Which equipment I'm referring to here? Let's say there are computers in an organization. These computers must be protected from theft. Computers can be stolen, printers can be stolen, and other ICT equipment might be stolen. So this list, it's of current importance for the safeguard of equipment. Safeguard of buildings, meaning we need security personnel 24 hours. The locking, where the equipment is kept, must be locked. Air conditioning. Let's say we've got 30 computers, 50 computers or more on that particular room or on that particular computer laboratory. So when these computers are switched on, they simply increase a temperature on that particular room, which is dangerous to computers. If you've got computers in a certain venue, that venue must be air conditioned in order to reduce the temperature, because if the temperature is high, that can damage computers, particularly components like power supply on the computer. The CPU must be kept cool. That is the reason why when you get to the motherboard of the computer and go straight to the CPU, there is a heat sink and the small fan there, we refer to it as a cooling system. So this heat sink and the fan attached to the CPU of the computer, its main intention is to reduce temperature on the CPU, because if the CPU can overheat, that might even damage the entire motherboard. So the air conditioning, it's of current importance. Fire control system are also required to computer labs. The fire control system that you can mention, it can be a fire extinguisher, it can be a fire notification device, and so on. Insurance. If anything strange or bad happens to these computers, for an example, they get stolen or they get damaged because of different reasons, which might include natural disasters, so insurance must be there to cover those costs. The notification system, which is also referred to as alarm system. So the alarm system, as part of physical safeguard of equipment, it's important as well. CCTV cameras are also required and must work hand in hand with the alarm system. And the last one, where computers are kept, that venue must be kept clean. It must be free from dust. It must be free from water, because dust and water can damage the motherboard of the computer. So the venue with computers must be free from water. We need to make sure that there is no leak on the roof where there are computers, and we avoid taking any liquid next to computers. As I've indicated earlier, this is referred to it physical security. Now we are going to shift our focus, but we are still continuing with security. As we're now talking about protection of data, this is now, it's no longer a physical security, but it's data protection now, meaning the information kept on computers used to be confidential. Unauthorized users are not allowed. Some people might try to get access to the files that they are not allowed to. And if the right precautions are not taken to protect data, so that data might get stolen, it might be accessed by people who are not allowed to. So how to protect data on our computers? The very first point is an issue of assigning passwords. It's not only about passwords. So it is not recommended to create a weak password, so to say. It is irrational, or it's uncalled for to create a password using your name, using your surname. that is not recommended at all, because the password must be strong. For an example, the password must mix capital letters and small letters. Password can mix letters and numbers. Password can even use the special characters and so on. But it must be long as well, so that no one can try to guess it. So if we create passwords in order to protect a confidential data, so we don't simply create using someone's name or surname. Cause it must be strong. The first one is password. The second one is backup. It's very important to make a backup. Backup is nothing but a copy of certain files. For an example, you know that these files are important. So in order to protect them, or if the computer gets crashed or anything happens to the computer, or the computer gets stolen and so on, you need to have a backup. So you can backup using the removable storage devices like flash disks, CDs, and so on. But you can even use your email to back up. Job rotation, restriction of physical access, the system locks, right, getting back a little bit, okay, that one was all about the protection of data. So we differentiate protection into two. We are protecting data, we are also protecting equipment. Moving on, now let's get to communication, the so-called data communication. These days, we are communicating a lot using data, not verbally. So if I make a phone call, that is just an analog. It's a verbal communication. But when it comes to data communication, we can use SMS, emails, and so on. That is part of data communication. Right here, we've got basic components of data communication. What are those components? It's a message, irrespective whether it's an SMS or email message, but the message is one of the components of data communication. The sender, please take note. The message to be received by someone, there should be a sender there who is sending that particular email message, and there is a receiver. Who is the receiver here? What is the receiver here? No. When it comes to the receiver cannot be a human being. A human being is not a receiver. A receiver, it's a device. It's not a human being. If I'm receiving this email using my smartphone is a receiver. If I'm using my laptop is a receiver. And the one who is receiving, who is accessing this message or this information using smartphone or computer, that person is a recipient, not the receiver. It's a device which is a receiver. The transmission medium, we are referring to communication networks. We know these days the issue of wireless communication is dominant. We can refer to wireless communication, we can refer to different network cables, we can refer to fiber optic cable, coaxial cable, twisted pair cable, and so on. But about the transmission medium, that's what we are referring to. A protocol. Protocol is nothing but the procedure that need to be followed for communication to be possible. For an example, if I want to send an email to someone, to a certain recipient, I need to follow the right protocol up until I send that particular email message. So all the steps that I undergo, that is a protocol of doing this. Types of networks. We've got the local area network and wide area network. Well, we've got more than this, but for the purpose of this computer practice N6 lesson, under information system, we are focusing much on local area network and wide area network. So we need to be able to differentiate between the two types of networks. So the local area network, the so-called LAN, it's a kind of network that connects computers in a small area such as home, office, or within an institution. That is a local. The wide area network, computers connects on public network and can be accessed by public all over the world. So the second difference, computers or workstations. Remember, when computers are on a network, we refer to them as workstations. So workstations here are sharing network resources. This is another advantage of network. For example, I can have 30 computers in a venue. All these 30 computers can share one print. That is a sharing of resources. So all 30 computers can use one printer. That is a good example. And at the very same time, wide area network covers a wide area using private or public network. These are examples down here. A good example of wide area network, it's internet. So we need to know that internet is the largest computer network. We understand that today we are using different devices to access internet. We can use computers, we can use our smartphones, tablets, and so on. But when it comes to internet, that is the largest network. Data communication channels. Right, about data communication channels, take note. Data communication channels transfers data from point to point, from one point to another. Those channels are modems. Take note, the modem stands for modulator, demodulator, microwaves, satellites, fiber optic cables, hubs, and so on. So these are data communication channels. So it's important to understand how the modem works. It might be covered as we proceed. Well, for now, guys, I would like to stop right here with this presentation, but it's not all. Then I will proceed with the very same presentation to conclude this section of information system for computer practice N6. Thank you.